Good evening, families and friends. Welcome to Manheim in the spring for our Music Fest. This evening, we have the pleasure of sharing with you the talents of our 4th and 5th grade orchestra, band, and chorus selections under the guidance of Mr. Momer. We would ask you to kindly give them the respect they deserve. They've been working all year long for this grand performance. And at this time, I will hand over to Mr. Mummer to introduce our first act.
All right, we are actually going to be starting off with a little solo feature. And this was a student who came to me a little while ago and said, I know how to play the national anthem. Can I do that at our concert? I said, yes, you can. So this is Anthony, and he is going to start our concert off by playing our Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem of the United States. If you would please stand. Their first one was entitled Tick Tock Goes the Clock. The because it kind of sounds like a clock that was ticking. And they did that by using a technique that they start with way back at the beginning of the school year called pizzicato. Pizzicato is Italian for plucking. And so they were using their fingers to pluck the strings. And now we're going to go to the technique that we learn in the middle of the school year that is called arco, which means bow. So they're using their bow for the second piece, and this is called rockin' strings. titled Shark Attack. I was hoping it may make you a little bit reminiscent of the Jaws movies from way back when, so that way you could hear a little bit of that coming through. And now we're going to be moving on to a piece that's more like a jazz style piece. This is called Bow in the Blues. So it uses the blues scale from the jazz era. do ask that please refrain from participating. We don't want to mess them up, right? So I know we all love to do stomp, stomp, clap, but not tonight, please. They will take care of it for you, so just listen to them. hot cross buns. And in fact, many of you probably remember these very students playing it on recorder last year when they were in 3rd grade. But a slight twist is the fact that we're going to play through that tune 4 times. The first time you hear it, it will be the full band. The second time you hear it, it's going to be just the people in the front row and like half of the back row, the percussionist over there. They're going to play it the second time. The third time you hear it, it will be just the back row. And then the 4th time you hear the same tune, it will be everybody in the band again. So we get to hear different sections of the group playing the song Hot Cross Buns. Alright, sorry, we had to do a little adjustment there with the read. Those things can be very finicky. We are going to be doing our last piece for the 4th grade band called Taking It All In. This is a piece where they had to learn multiple different parts and then put them all together to make a band, because we all have to be able to play together to make a band happen. So this is Taking It All In for our 4th grade band. first one there for 5th grade band, Dawn's Africana. You get a little bit of the melody presented slowly up in the front, and then the percussion kicks in with those African rhythms using bongos and African drums in the back to set up that faster paced piece later on. And now we're going to switch to something completely different, Invasion. Like the army's coming in. You're going to hear our trombones kind of featured a little bit here playing the melody section of the Invasion. So here we go. And the last one for the band, 5th grade band, is called Alpha Dog. And the composer writes in her notes that this is kind of more like a pep band piece that you'll hear for a marching band playing in the stands than it is a concert piece. But it's a fun one for them to play, and they enjoy it. So here is Alpha Dog. Anthony's back. It was only about a week ago. He came to me again, he goes, hey, I got another song. Okay? So this is about Hymn of the Republic. He's going to play it for us. Again, this is from memory. So take it away, Anthony. We're going to change over the stage here to get ready for chorus while he entertains you with that Hymn of the Republic. Billingsley titled Songs of the 70s. So we have the Lean On Me classic hit, and the next one from the Village People. This is the YMCA. Sorry, I had to find these pieces of paper here real quick. Back in March, some of the students from our course had a chance to participate in a special ensemble. And we had to take a little trip. And during that trip, they participated in something called the PNEA Songfest, which is something that happens for District 7 in Pennsylvania. District 7 is a pretty large area. There's multiple counties included, and from the schools that are in those counties, each director gets to choose a minimum of 4 students. So we get to do some auditions. They had their audition in November or January. I don't remember. It was one of those months, but it was a long time ago. I had a little audition to see who was going to get selected, so we picked 4 of the students to go. And I'm presenting them today with a little certificate so they can remember their participation in this festival. So I want to call them down here and they can accept the certificate and then take it back and set it on the riser there next to them. So Bria, go right here, goes one. Abigail Brennan. Grace Hoffmans. And Lillian Weaver. They have one to sing in a chorus of a much larger size. It was over 200 in the chorus, and it was a wonderful concert that they put on that day. But anyway, we're going to get ready for our final piece. We do have to shift around a little bit, so if you would like to get into your positions, we're going to be doing a song called I Feel Like Dancing, made popular by Jason Mraz. And they have a dancing part that they're going to be doing along with it. So, we're getting set up. Yeah, Liam. All right, so I'm going to dismiss the students.